Hi, this is Kevin Sharp, and we are of Gemini Outdoors, and we are continuing our TOU series on fixed blade knives. And the next group or category of blades that I would like to discuss is utility blades and what I expect out of them. A good utility blade is generally going to be, in my opinion, from 5 to 7 inches long. It's kind of going to be in that mid-range of knives as far as lengths are concerned. And they need to be able to perform a variety of jobs that I feel that they should be able to do, if I can talk. To me, a good utility knife should be able to process small wood jobs. They're not going to be able to perform the same batoning tasks and chopping tasks that the survival blade would be able to do, just simply because they're shorter. They don't have as much mass to them as the bigger survival blades, and they're not going to have the span to be able to do those big, huge logs, which, to be honest with you, out in the woods, if you're going to be chopping down trees that are, bigger around than 5 to 6 inches, I don't know, I'm questioning it, to be honest with you. I'm usually going to be looking for something probably about that big at the most. I mean, something that a utility blade should be able to handle. Like I said, your knife is one of your most important tools, so I'm not going to do anything to put that blade at risk, of breaking. To me, also, a utility knife should be able to do fine things. It should be able to carve. I mean, at least be able to carve, like toggles, be able to carve tent stakes. Should be able to do some light carving of that nature. You should be able to process game with it. It shouldn't be so big that it's weighing you down to where it's just killing you to process game with. And it should be able to defend your life too. I mean, that's pretty much TOU completely covered right there. But again, mainly it's one of those middle of the road type deals. It's one of those that it's not a utility blade is not really a blade that is going to have a specific job. It's kind of a jack of all trades, and to me, it's one of the most versatile tools that you'll have is a good utility blade. Like I said, it's going to be about 5 to 7 inches in length, and thickness. I mean, it doesn't have to be as thick as some survival blades, but the thicker the spine, the better. It will be able to tolerate some abuse to it, like if you're batoning some hardwood or something. But a good utility blade is one of those things that you can throw on your hip and it not weigh you down too. A perfect example of that would be the M-Tech 113 here. This is I know the one that I was beating on out in the backyard. It's actually in my Get Home bag, my GHB or Get Home system, and so these blades have proven themselves really well. I mean, I beat on that one so hard I was trying to break it, and it went through through the wood like it was nothing to it. So, and I completely obliterated my firewood collection out back. So it did with this knife, and I was using, I believe it was oak, so it was a hardwood, and it was going through it like it was no problem at all. I did have to resharpen it. I had to sharpen the blade on it and everything, and it's like, yet again, we're talking about two different steels here. We're talking about stainless steel and carbon steel. And do I prefer one over the other one? I prefer, because I live in the South. I live in Alabama, and it's humid down here. There's a lot of moisture down here, so I kind of lean towards the stainless steel side of it, because especially if I'm going out in the woods and I know I'm going to have a multi-night excursion or something like that. I think I would prefer to have stainless, because then I wouldn't have to worry about blade care as much. But I'm one of those kinds of guys that I like to be hands-on about things. I like to keep, take care of my stuff. So carbon steel really isn't that big of a deal either. Just a light coating of oil and, you're good. And carbon steel, of course, is much harder than which this is a carbon steel blade right here. This is the Schrade Model 37. And, you have to take care of them. If you don't, they will rust up, the carbon steel blades. So that's something to consider when you're buying a utility blade, or you're thinking about getting a utility blade. Of course, and I probably should have said this in the survival blade when I didn't, all your knives need to be full tang or pin tang. This little M-Tech right here, if you can tell, it's kind of like a K-bar. It's got you can see the little pin right there. It's pinned to the tang, or at least the pommel is, and that's fine too. Just as long as the tang goes all the way through it is very important. I got a blade, the Sheffield Rogue. I am going to do an eval on it. I can't believe I'm going to do that. I'm getting a little off subject, but I decided, you know what, my viewers need to see the bad along with the good. I'm one of those guys that, I believe that you should show what you got. And I wasn't going to waste my time. It was so bad once I seen a few things. I think I've done another video out there that y'all might have seen where I show it. But I'm going to do it again, and I'm actually going to do an eval on the Sheffield Rogue. That's coming up, and you're going to laugh when you see it. But anyways, another example. This is not full tang either, but I do know that the Buck 119, I believe the tang comes down, and it is, I forgot what they call it, exactly what kind of tang they call it, but it could be considered full tang. I know that there's enough videos out there on YouTube where these things have been beaten down that they perform really well. I consider this a really good utility knife. It's the 420 HC stainless steel. Another good thing about 420, that a lot of guys out there like to rant and rave against the steel, but it's the only steel out there, I guarantee you, that is rust resistant and will throw sparks from a ferro rod. I've been using my Buck Bantam for that. I discovered that, but there's probably a lot of you guys out there who knows that already. But that's just another reason. You don't want to knock too many steels, especially if you're having to choose a low budget option. You're going to get one of those steels. It's just a matter of the heat treat. A 440 blade will hold up pretty good if the heat treat's done right. Now, if you run into a blade that doesn't have heat treat, and M-Tech is susceptible to having that. I know I talk really highly of M-Tech. You have to be very picky about what blade that you choose from them. Same could be said for Schrade or Buck too. I mean, it could be just one of those deals where the heat treat just wasn't up to their standards and you got a bad batch that went out. But it's very important, like I said, in the survival blade one, you need to test these blades at home before you take them into the woods, into the field. I've said that over and over again. You need to test these things at home before you take them out in the woods. It's very important. You need to know what your blade is going to be capable of doing the minimal tasks that you ask of it. If you go out there and you start batoning with one of these blades and it breaks, and this is the only blade you have, you find yourself in a lot of trouble really quick. So I would be, testing these blades at home, and that's what I do. And I know there's a lot of folks out on YouTube that are going to laugh at you and be like, and be critical of you for doing that. But my thing is I would rather have it break here than I would in the field. It's just been proven time and time again. Utility blades, like I said, they're a jack of all trades. They can kind of go in between doing batoning wood or carving wood, just carving, like little tent stakes, stuff like that. The blade's not so big that it's uncomfortable and it starts wearing your arm out. It kind of helps with your calories, and it also helps with size and weight. Now, a larger survival blade is going to take up what I call S&W, size and weight, and you have to take that into consideration when you're going out there. So you need to be, if I'm going on a monster 3-day hike, what do you want to be able to do, with it? I would consider a utility blade for that as well as a survival blade. It just depends on how much stuff you want to take out there with you and how much weight you can take in your physical ability. I know a lot of guys that say take a survival blade. I know a lot of guys that would say take a utility type blade. I know a lot of guys that says I'm just going to take a one tool option. And those guys, that's perfectly fine too. But I think I would much rather have a system, and I do have a system for processing wood and stuff like that. And then being able to determine what kind of a blade I want to insert into that system. If you're just going for a day hike, you're not planning out and being in the woods, it's always a good idea, in my opinion, to take a utility blade with you. You don't have to carry it on your hip. You can just throw it in the pack, and you've got it just in case something happens. A storm comes up or something, and you need to be able to throw a shelter up real quick, or you need to be able to cut rope or paracord real quick, or you need to, work on something that you might, have to use an eye for. Anything in those situations, a utility knife can come in real handy. And they are very, very versatile, and that's one of the biggest upsides to a utility blade, in my opinion, is that they're capable of doing so much. And it's not going to hurt you to have one of these blades on you, even if you're just going out on a day hike, or you're just you decide I'm going to just go road hiking or something. I know that's something I'm considering doing. And you need that little extra bit of security. Hey, I've got a blade in my pack, and I know that it can defend my life. I know that it can help me if I'm out here for longer than what I thought I was going to be. So that covers, I think, pretty much the spectrum of utility blades. Also, they can make other tools for you, so that's another thing you can consider too. But having a good quality utility blade is something that I would consider very important when you're coming up with your different types of systems that you want to use out there in the field. So keep that in mind, and we'll see you later.